Excellent. Hey, everybody. Dave Lucas, founder of 12 Minute Trading. Great to be with you guys here today. Been doing this, gosh, well over 20 years. My partner in crime, some of you may know, is Doc Severson. Doc and I have been working together almost that long. And we're option sellers. That's what we do. And so we're always looking for the best opportunities to sell options, get paid up front to take on risk, and then do what we need to do to keep that profit. And so I'm more of a high probability trader. And so my win rates have consistently been well in excess of 90% a year for those years. The biggest thing that I've had to do over the years, obviously, is learn how to mitigate a high probability trade that goes against you. As you know, if you trade high probability, it is smaller amount, right? Higher risk, but way out of the money, right? And so we do that, but we also combine that with low probability as well as at the money trades and everything else. We do at least for me, I do about 5 different strategies in my services on a weekly basis, and then Doc does several through his in his live trading room every day. So that's our world. 12minutetrading.com is how you find us, and we'll get into more of that in a minute. One of the things that I found over the year, because I know this is really about analyzing, right? So one of the things that Doc and I really pioneered a number of years ago was looking for a way to have a good idea when a stock or an index ETF is ready to trend. Not necessarily tell us what direction that it's going to go, but when it's ready to trend in a direction, right? Wouldn't it be nice to know, hey, this stock is ready to go. It's got a ton of energy. It's ready to explode in a direction, right? And so that was what we endeavored to do. And we did that, and we call it fractal energy. And so I'm going to jump into that here in a second. But the thing that I spent a number of years on that eventually kind of perfected was getting the direction of that correct, right? So how do I have a good idea which direction we're going to go, that sort of thing, right? And so I found that utilizing the energies, as you can see on the screen, that's the bottom here, the energies combined with price action and the Bollinger Bands really gave me some great signals. And so that's kind of what I want to show you today of how I can use these to signal the different trends and in direction of where a stock's going to go, and to use that in your favor. And you can do this, guys. I mean, I do day trading too. So I use this in microcosm. I can do this on the minute by the hour and everything, all the way up to looking at it over months or weeks and that sort of thing. That's why we call it fractal, because each is a fraction in time. It's a fractal of the different charts. So with that said, I'm going to go off camera while I do this. Feel free to, ask any questions as we go, drop them in the chat, right? If you have anything like that. But the first thing that I want to do is let's take a look at the SPX, right? One of the things that I think is very easy for most people to see is on price action Bollinger Bands, right? So the Bollinger Bands aren't perfect, but they really kind of act like the ropes of a boxing ring. Think about a boxer in a ring, right? They get pushed up against the ropes bend, but they don't break. They throw the boxer back in the ring. And you can kind of see just looking at the price action, like sometimes you'll ride that Bollinger Band down, but then you eventually bounce back the other way. And then when you get back to the top of at this end of the boxing ring, you get thrown back in, and so on and so on. Every time you kind of get into the bands or a little bit outside of the bands, you're typically going to see yourself go back the other direction. So, here's a good example, thrown back the other way. Big sell-off, got too far outside the bands, bounced back in, right? And so on as we go, right? And so that is just right off the bat. Like if you're just looking for an indicator to help give you an idea of when a stock may turn and go the other direction, the top or bottom Bollinger Band is a good one for that, or at least pause, right? A lot of times you'll see a stock that will get to the upper Bollinger Band and then pause up there. You can see that right here in the SPX, right? And so you get up there and you just can't keep going through there. And so you'll pause and then maybe go back the other way. Um, so great indicator, great to use for that. When you're on the bottom Bollinger Band, probably if you like to sell options like us, good time to sell deep out of the money options. Top Bollinger Band, right? Good time to sell maybe deep out of the money call options and so on. Or here, this is where maybe you pick up shares and sell it, or sell puts against it right here, right? Or pick up shares and let it run up and then sell your covered call up here and so on. right? So they work pretty well just as a standard indicator. Now, obviously, understanding price action, and things is important too. And so we're actually in a position kind of like that in the markets where understanding price movement is very helpful in addition to the Bollinger Bands. Because just because you're here and you're starting to tick up doesn't mean you still can't do one of these, right? And so what denotes when something like this may happen? Well, that's where the energies come in. Okay. The energies, this is the fractal energy. And what this is, guys, this is just it's really a derivation of the choppiness index that we, did a lot of experimenting with, have custom code on. My students get this as part of the services for Thinkorswim. And the energy line, okay, coincides a lot with this movement. So, for example, here is where we were fully charged. So anytime you're up above this green line, above 60 or so, you're fully charged. Okay. Anytime you're down towards the red line, 25, 30, you get pretty exhausted, right? You can kind of see that, right? And so what you look for is you say, okay, well, we're pretty charged up right here, right? Which way are we going to release? Well, in this case, obviously we release down, right? And then we hit that bottom Bollinger Band and we released back up, right? And the energy burned itself out. Once we burned ourselves out, right? We had to walk sideways for a while and that charged the energy back up to where we got fully charged again. And then we took off again, this time to the downside. Guess what? We were on the upper Bollinger Band. We were fully charged. Well, guess which way we went? We burned that energy back to the downside. Then that charged itself back up, right? And we blew it out to the upside and so on. So you can see how the energies help me signal like when the chart is ready to move again. So when I see one of my favorite setups, absolute favorite setups, is when I see a stock that's at the bottom Bollinger Band and either into exhaustion, right? Because it means it's really hard to keep going, right? This way because it has no more energy left, right? Or if it's at the bottom and it's got that charge because it's really ready to, go flying back the other way, kind of like what we saw here. Now this is interesting, right? We got fully charged. What did we do here, right? We went up here, we hit the Bollinger, we walked sideways, train tracks, train tracks, train tracks, and then boom, Fed day, right? Remember the whole hawkish Fed and everything came in. And that energy, crushed itself, then it charged back up, right? And then we released down again. And now we've charged ourselves back up a little bit, right? And I think you guys have watched the price action over the last week. We every day, you open up higher, right? And then what do? We give it back. So today's a really interesting day. Is this going to be the day where we finally keep it, or do we give it all back this afternoon again and go negative, right? And so that's what I think a lot of traders are watching because that's the price action side of it. And what we have right now, and it's really close, right? But we have technically a lower low and technically a lower high. So when markets go from making, right, higher lows, higher highs, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, to making lower lows, lower highs, right? That's typically a change in character of the market, right? Now, that's where understanding price action is important because normally I'd be saying, okay, bottom Bollinger Band, here we are. We're charged up. We're pretty much at the full charge. Probably going to run back the other way. And we should, right? That would make sense. The fundamentals really haven't changed in the market, right? But I think you guys can all kind of feel there's some unease out there, right? As we get into this year. And so the market is really trying to find its direction. And so right now, this can turn and run right back down here, right? And so, like I've told my students, there is no point to jump into trades without a really good edge right now. And because we've now made the lower lows and the lower highs, we need to see if this thing pushes itself back up to, back up to at least this range and try to get this high again. That's price action, right? And so there's no point to just jump into trades. Now, what you can do in an environment like this is trade iron condors, right? And so we've been doing more of that, shorter term iron condors, in and out, picking up 2 to 3%, a day type thing on these things, and just kind of staying out of the fray because it can do this all day long. But if you got an iron condor that's set way up here and way down here, doesn't really matter, right? Let it do its thing. And so when you get these times like this, it's better to shift versus directional to just take advantage because you really don't know which way it's going to go in the end. So remember I talked about this being fractal though, right? So this is the daily time frame. So this is if you're looking at kind of just if you're looking at regular time frames, there's three major time frames, right? The daily, the weekly, and the monthly. And the way to think about it is things start from the inside out, right? So the daily is kind of like think of it like the kids or the toddler, right? It'll get its burst of energy for 4, 5, 6, 7 days, and then it's tired, right? And just like a kid gets all energetic for a little while and then naps for a while, right? The weekly chart is the next level up, and that's more like the kid's parents. And you can see it looks a lot different than the daily chart, right? Because the fluctuations aren't so manic, if you will, right? It's more steady. This chart is absolutely, staying right now in an uptrend, right? We have on this chart, we don't have a lower low, right? Here's our last low. We're not below it, right? We've been putting in, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, right? So the next step for this chart, you can see it's fully charged up again. If it's going to follow the pattern, is going to go back up and start to run here. And we've got a little bit of a squeeze coming in the Bollinger Bands, right? Anytime you see a squeeze coming in the Bollinger Bands, think of that like, oh, I don't know, like you put water in your hands and you squeeze it, right? What happens? It comes flying out of there, right? And so while these happen over weeks, a weekly swing, as you can see, when you burn that energy out, right, over the span of weeks, this can go on for 10, 12, 14, 15 weeks, right? So look at where we're at. We're getting ready. We've got a Bollinger Band squeeze coming in. We've got, pretty much fully charged up here, right? So we're on the precipice of a pretty big move, right? Now, the key to this whole thing is this moving average right here, 5,800 basically. And the reason I say that's the key is you'll notice when you shift from bear markets over into bull markets, this line acts as support or resistance really well. And this is just the 20 period simple moving average in the middle of the Bollinger Band. Standard thing that you're going to see out of Thinkorswim. But you'll notice when we're in a more of a bear corrective market, we can't get above it. We try, get faded. We try, get faded. We try, get faded, right? Until you start to come back out. And yes, you can dip below when you shift the other side, but you gotta get back above it. And so what we typically see, is once you're above it and you're in a good bull market, you're gonna come and test it. You may undercut it, but you're gonna go back above it. Test it, right? Above it. Now we're getting to that point where we could test it, right? About 100 points away. So this is that level. If this breaks through here and this starts to release, that tells me the longer term trend, the next couple months or so, is downward trend, right? So I can play that. I can play the opposite side of that, or I can, I can sell, I can sell call side, following it down, call spreads, call spreads, call spreads. In a rare case, I may buy some puts if I'm really confident in it, right? But you can play that action. So this line, this level is really key right now. And that's the thing I'm watching is like we've got a daily chart that's about to release. Which way does it go? Does it start to release lower? If it does it take out this 5,800? And then do we see us try to retest, right? Retest and then fail, retest, fail? Or do we come back above it like here, right? And hold it and go. That, again, is how I can really pen my direction for the next 2, 3 months, right? All right, so that's the weekly chart. Now, there's another time frame. It's even bigger, right? That's the monthly chart. So the monthly chart, like the grandparents, right? Older, wiser, right? And you can see we have clearly been in a really solid bull trend. Now, the monthly acts different when it comes to the energies for the most part. The monthly can go on for a very long time and charge itself up on the fly. And it can do that by having some months where it does like these type of moves, right? It was, this month was all the way down to here and here. So this is like sideways action on this chart, right? Even though it's going higher, right? It's like sideways action. And so that's why you see this thing starting here, starting to charge back up. And so it can go on for a long time, right? These trends last 12, 15 months, right? And so clearly, overall, we are in a bull trend upward. Long-term wise, we're in a bull trend. Okay, the overarching trend is a bull trend, right? But that doesn't mean you can't have corrections in a bull trend. You could have 20% corrections, right? But this was our bear. What did we do? We went below right here, below the moving average. Took a long time to get back above it, retested it, and then we've been off to the races. So if we were going to correct in a big way, guys, 51.39 would be the level to watch this thing come down to, right? That'd be 20% correction, right? And that would still, believe it or not, even on this chart, it would be a higher low if that happened. So overarching trend on the long term is bull. Short term, we may either go into corrective, right? Or continue the trend upward, gonna be based upon how this energy starts to release. Short term, as in daily chart, we have definitely been in corrective, right? And we're at an inflection point where we need to really pick a direction and decide if we're going to overcome this or if we're going to waterfall down here and take out 5,800 and do that kind of short-term trend lower. So that's the overall markets. You can do the same thing on any stock. So for example, if I pull up Tesla, all right, Tesla obviously has released its energy lower, but guess what? It's almost done, right, on the daily chart. That's maybe why we're seeing a little bounce. We're by the lower Bollinger Band. We came down. Prior resistance typically will act if as support, right, from a price action standpoint. So not surprised to see it come into right here, find some potential support right here. Let's look at the weekly chart though. What's the overarching trend? Okay, now this makes sense, right? Gangbusters for the last few months, got outside the Bollinger Band. Now we've pulled back in. Look what that's starting to do. It's starting to charge the weekly chart up. This makes perfect sense, price action wise and energy wise. We were too tired to keep going. We need an excuse to pull back. We've got that. Now we can walk sideways right here. We can pull back more if we want to, but more likely, probably walk sideways here, charge this thing up over the next few weeks, and then be ready to go again. So Tesla may just stay in a range over the next few weeks and bump around for 20, 390, 370, somewhere in that range. Good time to look at like an iron condor on a stock like this, right? Big white iron condor. Maybe get outside this high and try to get below this, this level here, right? And do it, 2, 3 weeks out, right? That's a good time to look at that. On the monthly chart, pretty exhausted outside the Bollinger Band. So again, makes sense pulling back in here, right? Too far, too fast. Got ahead of our skis, basically, is what's going on with Tesla. Let's look at another big player, NVDA. So NVDA looks like it's starting its release higher, right? We've went sideways, charged up, stayed above here, starting to release. Got a little bit of a squeeze on these Bollinger Bands. Looks like we're starting to release higher. Let's check out the weekly chart. Pretty charged up. We're holding the line, right? Getting ready, probably getting ready to make a run, right? So, and then if we look at the monthly chart, whew, plenty of energy on here. So there is a pretty solid chance, guys, that NVIDIA continues higher. I'm a put seller on NVIDIA. I even buy at the money and sell covered calls week to week. And until this thing really changes its character, that looks pretty good on this chart. So that's NVIDIA. I'll stop there. If there are any questions, please put them in the questions or the chat if you have access to that. I don't know if they do, David. If not, I am happy to take and analyze tickers and really just share with you guys what this action is telling us and what the energies and the Bollinger Bands are telling us. Mara. I've been playing Mara and Riot a lot too. So hey, so look at Mara. This was made sense, right? The energy burned out. We hit the lower Bollinger Band. We got extreme exhausted. Guess what? We got the bounce, right? So there we are. There's the bounce, and that's charging back up. But this is all sideways action on this thing, right? So this isn't yet a confirmed trend back the other way. This is just going nowhere for the span of days, right? So what you want to see is this get charged up and then continue that run higher. Now let's look at the weekly. Oh, that's the 1 hour. The weekly. So the weekly, though, It's tough. Right now we're sitting right in the middle, right? So this is something to keep an eye on, right? Maybe we're releasing higher, maybe we're getting ready for that next kind of run higher there, right? But let's let it tell us, right? Riot will look the same if you like, if you guys follow Riot. The monthly, plenty of energy, holding the line pretty good, right? But this thing has been in really a sideways trend for a while. It needs to break out, right? And so kind of like the rut for 2 years, it didn't go anywhere, right? It's kind of sitting there like that too. All right, so Mara, like I said, Riot's gonna look pretty similar to that. Um, I just did Tesla a second ago, guys. Um, Please explain the bottom indicator charged up. Well, that's the energy line, guys. When it's charged up, it's ready to go, right? And that's why you see this is all sideways. It's charged it up, so it's ready to probably release again. When it's exhausted, right, is when you're tired and you're probably ready to go back the other way, right? So ALSN. So let's take a look at that. All right. So ALSN bottomed, came inside the Bollinger Band, has held this level really well, right? It looks like it's getting ready to go back the other way. A massive amount of energy. One thing I would do whenever I get a way above 60 like this, I let this thing start because this is going to go for a number of days, right? When this releases. So typically I like to see it, I'd like to see it get above the moving average, right? And I'd like to see this come into the 50s. That for me would be a good sign that this is really releasing higher. Now let's look at the weekly real quick. It's charging itself up. This is all sideways action on the weekly. This is good. It's holding the line, right? So could be a good time to sell if you can get some deep out of the money puts. Like if you're looking at expected move and can get outside the expected move, selling some puts down here around these former kind of resistance levels. That's a nice little trade on this. And heck, if it does come down there, you get the stock a lot cheaper, right? I just don't know if there's enough what I'd call jack in the chain, right? I have to look at the options chain to see if it makes sense if you're going to get any, payment for that. So, on a monthly basis, though, it's pretty exhausted. So it's gonna be tough to trend like this again. It may go up and down and sideways and stay in a range for a good while this kind of charges back up. So could be a good one for iron condors too. So you may see this thing kind of 122 to 1 in 100, 122 to 100, 122 to 100 type action, unless earnings are bad or something, right? That changes everything. Um, let's see here. QUBT. All right, so this is flagging. Okay. Now all these quantum computing stocks are nuts. Like I've actually been playing Rigetti. I'll jump over there real quick. So you can see here's the chart on Rigetti, right? Every time this drops down to 16, I sell on it. And I sell typically for that same week, a few bucks below, and I'm getting $1 to $2 a contract selling puts. And then it runs away from it, and I'm typically buying them out for 50% or better within a couple days. So just all these quantum computing stocks are kind of like that right now. It will not last. You can see these things are, they're moving pretty good. This thing has charged itself back up. It's going to trend either down or up. All of them went from like nothing up to here, right? And so these moves like this, guys, typically revert to the mean at some point. So good right now, but you got to be real careful. One of the things that I do when I sell those puts is I buy a little bit of a defensive put or put spread on the backside just to protect from like a big downside move. Pay like 20 cents for it. Um, the weekly on this thing outside the bands, coming back in, right? Look how wacky this thing is with this move, right? So this is one of those ones where you don't necessarily have an edge other than selling puts to get in cheaper. You have to be careful because this thing could crash 10 bucks any day. It's just kind of where you're at with these kind of penny stocks to major stocks, right? That's what happens. Extremely exhausted on the monthly. Reverting the mean would be to come back to 10 or 12 on this, right? So there's a patience there because that will happen at some point. That would be an amazing time to get into this, keeping it on your watch list for that. That's kind of the hard thing with that. What indicators on the bottom panel? So Wes, that is the fractal energy indicator. That's proprietary indicator that I was talking about in the beginning that we spent about 10 years perfecting to tell us when a stock has the energy to trend or not. My students at 12-minute trading get that as a student. Um, okay, let's see here. Let's take a look. I see Amazon. So Amazon's more of a bellwether now, right? But this is a really interesting setup. We're on the bottom Bollinger Band, right? Got a ton of energy. We got a squeeze on the charts. Look, last time we had energy like this, last time we squeezed, look at that move that came out of there, right? But again, in the context, let's look at the NDX real quick. In the context of what's happening in the overall market, right? We got a higher low. Is this thing going to roll over or is this thing going to go back up? Right. So it's really kind of like you got to let it show its hand a little bit, right? You don't try and time it. It's okay to be a little bit late to it if you've got a confirmed trend. You can take advantage. It doesn't matter at that point. So, on all these, on really the overall market right now, stocks that are the bellwethers like Amazon, they kind of follow where the overall market is. So, kind of let things, I think over the next week, this is going to shake out, right? We got to get through this, the first 2 days of the year. We got some crazy stuff, like we got the Speaker of the House stuff happening today. So, heck, come this afternoon, if there's a problem there, that could affect the markets. There's that type of stuff. And then we've got next week is jobs, right? Big jobs report. Then we get into the Treasury Secretary issues, right? The debt ceiling and all of that. So I think this market's going to be finding its way over the next week or so to really, find some footing. Either way, right? So I'm playing short term, doing iron condors. I'm, bracketing this thing, and I'm not really you know, I'm not really in a hurry to put capital to work until I've got a clear trend showing up, right? And that's tough. I know that is, but it's tough to do that. But it's worth it, especially in the beginning of the year. That's usually when markets have a lot more volatility, let things kind of shake out. All right, JPM. So JPM looks to be trending higher, looks to be releasing higher, right? It has higher high, lower low, right? Now it's got to go to its next high. Weekly wise, it's pretty good. It's holding pretty good, right? Nice little point here. If I was going to sell on this, it'd be down around this level, right? 230 somewhere in there, right? Because that's where we've been holding this line, so that's good. On a monthly, we're sitting there pretty charged up. Obviously a big bull trend on this thing, right? All right, I got like one more minute. I'm gonna get the hook. PLTR. PLTR. So Palantir has pulled back nicely finally, right? Held the line, which is great. Got a lot of energy, starting to potentially head back the other way. Let's look at the weekly. Weekly's pretty exhausted though. So this may chop in here for a little bit. We may try to get up to the 80, come back down to the, 70 or so. This is again a good time, over the next week or two. Nice iron condor, way out of the money on this thing, and probably work out pretty good. So that's it, guys. That's how you use the Bollinger Bands in conjunction with the energies, in conjunction with kind of reading the price and the price action to really get timing, and trending and all that stuff more accurate, right? And take advantage. So, David, anything else you want me to share? Anything else that's sitting out there that I missed?
I don't see anything. So yeah, that was great.
Perfect.
A lot of good analysis. So
Well,
thank you for being here.
if you guys have an interest, one of the things that we do on our site, I'm gonna pull it right up here for you guys and show you, um, is here's our site. So
Oh,
12minutetrading.com.
I'm still seeing. Oh, okay. Never mind.
There
It
you go.
changed now.
Yep. So if you guys come right down here, you get a free 14-day trial of both of our services. And we found this is the best way to really get a handle on what we do, right? 2 weeks of getting my weekly newsletter, my updates, and everything that I do. The daily trading room with Doc live trading with you guys. Showing you exactly what setups, doing it live, all that really really great. So we find that in conjunction with each other, that's a really good way for you guys to get a good feel for what we do, and it's 2 weeks free. After that, it's a discount. It's 247 a month. Literally one contract of one trade typically pays for it in our world. For the entire month. But if it's not a fit for you, you just cancel. There's no you have full control over that, and our system and everything is managed by you. So doesn't hurt to give it a shot, check it out, and see if it's a fit. So I'll just you know put this link in there for you. So, um, that's it, guys. That's how we do it.